What's up, Buffalo Bill fans? Here to do a pre-Miami Dolphins video, but some more of a big picture video. Kind of like the game last week, even though EJ's not playing this week, which is a bummer um, for a lot of us. I mean, me personally, I want to see this guy play as much as possible from the coaches and the organization standpoint, putting him out there if he's going to be limited on a wet field and turn this into something more severe. It isn't prudent, so I understand them holding him out. But from a team standpoint, collectively, you want to see them, push through, rally, and win games. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is or isn't, what they have to play for, or what they don't have to play for. The only time this ever is going to turn around is if you win. And whether you get a draft pick or don't get a draft pick, a first round draft pick can be as big of a bust as the last pick in the draft. So that logic to me is gone. I used to do that stuff where I was just like lose out for draft picks, and then you've got to pick the right guy, regardless of where you pick. Just pick the right guy. I've seen tons of examples where it doesn't matter where a guy's picked. You pick the right guy. You do your due diligence organizationally. You get your guy, the guy that you feel is the best player, and he pans out. It doesn't matter where you pick him. But I also wanted to share some tidbits with you I found throughout the last couple of weeks, particularly listening to some of the Bills radio and the John Murphy show on WGR. I know most of you that are hardcore Bills fans like myself probably listen to it. And here's something that Chris Brown had to share with him, and he referenced this same theme 4 times inside of 10 minutes, and I'm going to share it with you now.
All you want till the cows come home. I don't care if you're in a postseason hunt or out of a postseason hunt. You can't perform like that if you expect to be a person on this roster next season. Yeah. And that's what it's going to come down to. These last 3 games are all you can talk about playoffs and how you're not in it anymore and you're playing for pride. These guys are playing for jobs. I don't know if all of them fully realize how much their jobs are on the line.
Well, that was my question. I hear you saying that, but do they get that? Do you think those players
I don't know if they do, but
all of them.
Some of them might learn the hard way in a very short period of time, as in before the season is over.
Yeah.
Because I just get the sense that something is afoot here where there's going to be a shocker sooner rather than later with respect to this roster.
Doug Marrone, Doug Whaley, Russ Brandon have tried to do here is change the culture.
Right.
It seems to me we're at a crossroads of that culture change right now based on yesterday's game.
I would agree with it, and I think Doug Marrone recognizes it, and I think Doug Whaley recognizes it, which is why I think something's going to happen here to shake that locker room up for these last 3 weeks, because the difference between previous coaching staffs is it's not going to be tolerated, and there will be repercussions, there will be consequences, and it will cost people their jobs on that roster. Happen, and I can tell you right now, this coaching staff is not going to stand for it, and I don't think management's going to stand for it either. I mean, I really think there's going to be some winds of change here, and I think it's coming before the end of the season. It's just a hunch. I think we're getting very quickly to a point here where there are going to be different kinds of changes.
Yeah.
More impactful, more seismic changes with this roster.
Okay. 4 times inside of 10 minutes. Very strong words. Impactful, seismic, whichever one you want to pick. And I think that a lot of Bills fans would be like, oh, wow, they think that the coaching staff and the regime's there. They got all their own guys in there. No, they don't. They don't have all their own guys in there. They don't have their own type, their own style, their own demeanor. More specifically, demeanor. Because if you look at Bills teams of recent past, the Duran teams, the Gailey teams, what's the reputation that they had? Even some of the current Bills players who have been fixtures on the team for quite a long time, that they're nice guys. That's the recurring theme that you hear about them, is that they're nice guys. And those teams also had the reputation of what? Being soft. Not being physical. I'll never forget what LaDainian Tomlin said before the 11 Bills game the whiteout game at home. I'll never forget that, him saying that. Same old Bills. They play pretty, we play physical. And I think there's a lot of guys. There's still some guys on this team that have that same mindset of playing pretty and not knowing how to have the mentality to get down and to be a dog and fight and scratch and claw. And no matter what time of the year it is, just go in there and try to battle. I think there's a lot of guys that still have the mentality of, hey, what are we playing for? Let's just mail it in. And if you're trying to change things, you can't have that. You can't have it. You can't have a front runner mentality while everybody wants to stand up and pound their chest when you win, and there hasn't been much winning there. But when it's been down, everybody just wants to say, hey, well, at least we're still getting our game checks and living a nice life. Marone constantly says higher calling. He uses that. He used that a few times that I've listened to, and you can't have 45 guys pulling in one direction and 6 to 8, maybe 10 other guys pulling in another. It all has to be a collective effort going forward. And also, a couple other things I picked up in terms of personnel philosophy. This is right after they picked up J.J. Onga. I know it's not a big deal, but I'm going to tie it into something else, so I'll let you listen. This is Marone.
I think what we like to do is build a bigger team. My philosophy has always been that, this is a game for, it's a big man's game. And I think that when we have the opportunity to better ourselves, we have to go ahead and do that no matter what time of year it is. And I think players know that and coaches know that. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get bigger.
Okay. Get bigger. Now, you have Chris Brown on the Bills roundtable before the Jacksonville game this past Sunday.
To the end here. So I think there's a lot of things that they can do to help EJ on the offensive side. Big receiver would be nice. And I think that is absolutely on the Bills' radar, because I was within earshot of Doug Whaley last week in the press box during the game. And he said the same thing when Vincent Jackson scored both his touchdowns against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was just a 2-word phrase, and he said it twice. Big wins.
So there you have it. I mean, you have the head coach and GM in lockstep in two separate instances referencing big and being bigger, whether it's, I think in their mind, I think big means playing big and also just being bigger physically, being a more physical team, being a more physically imposing team, whether it's through size or style of play. I think that's what they want to try to build, and I think there are certain guys still there that just don't have that mentality and have that skill set. And I think I think it's in a lot of areas. I think it's in the running style that they have. The running backs that they have don't have the running style that they'd like to have in terms of running behind your pads, running downhill. And I just believe that there's going to be some changes that are going to shock people. I think C.J. Spiller might be one of them. I think you have to look at Fred Jackson's age. I think you have to look at Stevie Johnson and his shortcomings as a so-called number one, as a veteran on the team. Unfortunate about, the stuff that's happened to him recently, but in terms of just talking football, you look at that. You look at the fact that they've tried to add athleticism at the tight end position. They've tried multiple times, with Fred Davis, the Chris Gregg, the Moiyaki signing. You tie it in with the fact that Chandler's a free agent. I mean, the guard position constantly being rotated all season. The blueprint of where this football team's going to go this offseason, I think, is pretty well set in stone. You look at the linebacker position, I don't think they're fully set there. I don't think they're fully content there. I think they'd like to add a bigger, more physically stout middle linebacker, which would allow Kiko to move to the weak side, and allow him to roam a lot more freely. He wouldn't be locked down in the middle so much, and he can use his playmaking ability a lot more freely. I think they'd like to get a bigger, more run plugging style middle linebacker. They've tried Moats there a little bit, Bradham. Those guys really haven't worked out too well. But there's only so many areas that they could address in their first year with the team under full control. I think they definitely like to do that, because I remember, again, another Marrone press conference, he said we view our Mike and Will as interchangeable. So again, there you have it. If you just listen to them sometimes and some of the things that they say, and you hear other sources, you can really get a good sense of what's going to happen and where they're going to go. But I wouldn't rule anything out. I really wouldn't. But I really feel that they've shown throughout this season where they're probably going to look to this offseason in terms of a bigger receiver, a more athletic tight end, more physical offensive line play, and a more physical style in the running game. You look at a team like the Chicago Bears per se, and you look at other offensive teams, they don't rely on separation as much as other teams. They just play throw it up and go get it. And you watch their team play, they throw it up, and Jeffrey and Marshall and Bennett, they just go up and get it. And the Bills just don't have that go up and get it type of target, whether it be tight end, whether it be wide receiver. And they need to have that, especially with the weather, the wind, the way it can be there. And just for their own sake, it would behoove them not to try to advance themselves in terms of, perimeter players, whether it be at tight end or wide receiver. Because if you notice, a lot of teams, when they're inside the 10 or they're at the 5 or even in goal line, that receiving tight end, he's split out as a wide receiver. I mean, I saw it last week against the Bengals and the Steelers. Tyler Eifert was their wide receiver. He ended up catching a touchdown. You can't cover, 5'10", 6 foot, can't cover 6'5", 250. It's a mathematical mismatch. And I think I'm being a little redundant with that, but again, listening to them, I think that's the way they're going to go. I think we're going to see some appreciable changes, more changes than last year. Even though we saw 30 plus new faces, we're probably going to see more. And some guys that we might be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, might be gone. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions about what I played for you, and some of what I said. I always appreciate your feedback, and hope you guys have a good rest of the week. Go Bills. It's always good to beat Miami. If they're able to knock them out of the playoffs or severely damage their playoff chances, that would be nice. Until then, you guys have a good one and take care.